They've stolen people's businesses. They drag their kids into every part of the drug business. They've had people killed.
Do you honestly believe every story they've ever told you?
Do you really think everything you do is to protect your family? Are you really that fucking shut down?
Welcome to the Ozark Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jamie G. Esquire the Fifth. And yes, this is a kick-ass Ozark Podcast t-shirt. I'm here with my co-host, my dude, my guy, Magnum Mills, and we are going to break down the penultimate episode of the Netflix series Ozark. Mills, what are we covering on this episode of the Ozark Podcast?
Jamie G, you're right. This episode did drive me to drinking a little bit. I'm Magnum Mills, and thank you for checking out the Ozark Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, please remember to subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop a comment. Same thing on your favorite podcast platform. Give us a like, some stars, comments, all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. And on this episode of the Ozark Podcast, we're going to discuss episode 13 of season 4, the penultimate episode of Ozark, Mud.
Please know that this is 1000% a spoiler podcast, okay? Yes, we're going to be spoiling everything up through the episode we are discussing, Mud. I can't say mud, Magnum Mills, without saying mud. We all know that all the episodes dropped all at once on Netflix. However, the Ozark Podcast, we decided covering these bad boys one by one made the most sense. On this episode, we'll be spoiling all episodes of Ozark up through episode 13 of season 4. Nothing past that. We will not be discussing any interviews with the cast, the crew, and the creators until we cover the series finale. Mills, give us the details for this episode of Ozark.
This is season 4, episode 13, Mud, originally released April 29, 2022, directed by Amanda Marsalis. This is the 6th episode of Ozark that she's directed. The last one she directed was Trouble the Water, written by Mickey Johnson. 4th written by credit here on Ozark, last was Sanctified, and our opening credit symbols on the title card are a fish taking the bait or the hook, a clerical collar like a priest would wear, the rod of Acephalus, and raindrops. Short plot synopsis is Omar pressures Marty to launder more money, but Ruth wants to keep her casino clean. Wendy goes to extremes to keep her children.
The stage is set, and it is time to break down the penultimate episode of the series, Mud.
I just hear Mud like on Arrested Development, where remember the joint with Judge was like, my name is Judge. Here I'm like, my name is Mud.
My name is Judge.
I didn't even know that this kind of technology existed.
We open at the Langmore place, soon to be the Langmore estate, because Ruth is making some big changes. She's tearing it all down and building a genuine rich person's lake house with a circular driveway and everything. But she's going to keep the outdoor couch. After all, she needs somewhere to sit on her giant ass deck.
Yeah, you're happy for Ruthie here. I mean, I've kind of mentioned it, even dating back to when we saw the scene where she was getting ready to go kill Javi, and she opens the safe and she's got stack bundles. Like, she legitimately has cash. Shout out to the artist Stack Bundles. But she had legitimate cash where she didn't have to be living in a trailer. And then you saw it more recently when the judge came to visit her, when she was trying to get her record clean, and she kind of noticed and said, yeah, it's really nice, right? Except all of our shit fucking it up. And so I think this is a good move for Ruth. I like it. I'm happy for her. Nice opening totally. Track too by Renegade with by
Sticks, dude. Some of the rumor sticks there, dude. And circular driveway comes back again. And I do kind of wonder, because she's really specific here. I figured there are 2 options because she's so specific. This is either what she came up with, like while talking with Wyatt, or she saw it at like Charles Wilkes' house or something, so she's directly cop. I mean, it's so specific. She's like 2 stories, all natural wood, like a real fucking lake house, 5 bedrooms, 6 bathrooms, and I want a kitchen on both floors. And I like the contractor. He's like, oh, so you like to cook? And she's like, nah, I like my beer close by. Like, you can tell, like, the contractors, the workers, they genuinely like Ruth and everything. So I really enjoyed this. I was just kind of, again, curious as to, why she had such a specific idea of what she wanted. And also shout out Julie Garner at the end of the scene. She just like almost trying to choke back a little bit of tears as she watched the trailer get torn down. So
yeah, and she's doing it for Wyatt too, and his dreams and hers. From there, Magnum Mills, we see the Birds minivan is driving down the road, and wouldn't you know it, Wendy Bird is driving. Considering how the last episode ended, that's pretty amazing. She's got a nasty hematoma on her forehead, bro. We're talking about a shiner. But other than that, she seems, okay. The radio DJ gives us a warning about a severe thunderstorm that's going to hit the Ozarks this week. Wendy turns off the radio and replies, well, I'm throwing a party on top of a fucking boat. Even though Wendy seemed relatively together here, you just know inside her mind, she's a ticking time bomb.
After the way the last episode ended, I didn't expect that we would just, the next thing we see is just Wendy Bird driving, like, other than the thing on her head, which disappears pretty quick into the episode and never comes back again, the hematoma. Just, this is a case where it's starting to feel an awful lot like they had to make some changes, or things got cut, or, maybe it's COVID, maybe it's just other problems they ran into. This is just, I feel like we missed something, right? There's no way you go from her hitting her head on the car window and you hear that sound and the blood to this. It just really feels like we skipped something major here, and that bothered me a bit. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with you, man. I mean, that was such a dramatic kind of self-harm situation at the end of there. It just seemed weird to kind of, right away we see her and she's just driving by herself, like that, just no,
just the mark on her head, basically.
Yeah,
she's a little extra.
I mean,
cranky.
it was a shiner. I mean, no doubt.
Oh, it's a hematoma, but I would have had more impact if it had lasted throughout the episode, which only takes place over the course of like a day. So, the last thing here before we move on is you hear about this storm. And this is Wendy Bird, right? She's having that party on that boat, no matter what. And if it's that bad, like the boat sinking, Wendy Bird be there, like, no, don't get off. Stay at the party. Stay at the fundraiser. She'd be that chick, right?
Storm be damned. She's having her party, Magnum Mills.
Hey, man, she thinks she's got the lungs to hot box with God, so to speak. And after that, we see where Wendy's going. She arrives at the Central Ozarks Behavioral Center. She enters the building and tells the receptionist that she's not feeling well and needs to check herself in. After haggling over paperwork, Wendy is asked to describe her current situation. She says that she's not well mentally. A worker named John tries to walk her through various questions, and Wendy does not have time for that shit. She tries to bribe him, and when that doesn't work, he asks if she's ever thought about harming herself, and she says, I'm having thoughts of harming you, John. That's enough for this dude. He tells Wendy that they have 160 beds for 164 patients. He gives her a list of therapists in the area and tells her, have a nice day.
The mental health situation in America really sucks. For people who legitimately need help, it is really difficult to get it, whether they don't have insurance or whether you run into a situation like this where there's just not an open bed. And for families who have ever gone through that, it's really frustrating and it's super challenging and it's just heartbreaking. So on one hand, I really hate that. On the other hand, again, I don't know how many more times they have to slap it across our face that Wendy is a ticking time bomb. We get it. She's a loose cannon. Like, it's not going to end well. Like, more and more and more of it, man, just piling up.
Really, my main takeaway here was how she, like, it was like she was checking into the Red Roof Inn. She's like, well, I'd like to just check in for one night, please. Yep. So it kind of made me wonder. That's, at this point still, I had no idea what she was doing here. Did you have any idea? I really didn't know. I figured she had some kind of plan or something, but I had no idea what it could possibly be.
She's so distraught over the situation and unhappy with it. She's just gonna,
right. It would have made sense
if
right after the head thing they had done this. That would have made sense. It's one of those places where we feel like we skipped the steps. I feel that's all. Just given how little time we have left in the show, I wasn't wild about this concept.
Totally agree, Magnum Mills. From there, we see Marty arrive at the Missouri Bell to find Ruth and Rachel waiting in his former office. Ruth informs him about the hostile takeover and how they pulled it off. She also shows him the casino license with her name on it, tells Marty that she got her record expunged. None of this really seems to move Marty. He tells her that he has to have controlling interest in the casino so that the Navarro cartel can have controlling interest in the casino, unless she wants to get him and themselves killed. But Ruth is unmoved by this. She holds a controlling interest in the casino and it will no longer be used for money laundering. Marty tells her that this is not a good idea, but Ruth doesn't care. Marty leaves and Rachel flips him the bird as he walks out. I don't understand the Rachel hate for Marty. I don't, it just seems unjust. And I don't really understand Rachel's role here. I mean, I get, she's going to work with Ruth and Ruth's going to make her, GM of the casino or whatever, but it's kind of like, just feels like they're just kind of forcing her here. They didn't really need to bring her back to the show at all. Like, it just, for me, it's kind of like a swing and a miss. Like, yeah, I enjoy the character, but like, why? It's not really doing anything for me. And
I like her presence and her dialogue, but from a plot standpoint, yes, she's basically superfluous. Like that's why I thought she just was going to die at the end of this episode, because I figured that's why they brought her back, basically to die, to get Ruth whatever she needed to then die. I give them credit for not doing that, but yeah,
I don't like how we've shifted this season to where like our core characters, other than Marty, aren't even really worried about the cartel anymore. Like there's no threat of like the cartel. Like people are just doing whatever they want.
Yeah, Ruth says like, oh, if they kill you if they were going to kill you, they do it by now. That's not really how it works.
No, like
they won't kill you till you're not useful anymore. Then they kill you.
I'm not a big fan of this, like just brushing the threat of the cartel under the rug. It just felt like last season where they just, or the first half of season 4, where they just kind of like, all right, well now we're just openly admitting our crimes to the FBI. Like when did that happen? Like we went from like hiding the shit to not even like letting anyone know, the cops being a legitimate threat, to like, oh, now we're just working with them. You know, Navarro's in jail, so the cartel's really not like, remember season 1, they were pulling people's fucking toenails off, dude.
Even Ruth got waterboarded. She brought it up recently. She got waterboarded by Helen, and I think only thing I can think of is because she killed Javi so easy. She's like, oh well, if the birds will take the blood of it, and I got to kill someone else, I'll kill someone else or something. I don't really. That's the thing. The tone of the whole scene is off. Like you said, Rachel doesn't make a lot of sense, and then Marty's kind of just like, you could tell he doesn't have any other option. And then Ruth is like, oh, it's personal, but it's not personal, but it's finding me a little bit personal. And it just, I know why they had to do it from a plot standpoint. It just, I don't know. It didn't. It just, I don't know. It felt kind of off. That's all I can say.
Agreed with that, Magnum Mills. Unfortunately, I think that I kind of felt that way a little bit throughout this episode. We'll talk about it as it rolls on. Walk us through the next scene.
Marty calls Wendy to tell her about Ruth, and Wendy takes it about as well as you would expect. Marty asks if she's on her way to the jail, and Wendy says, nope, she's working on something for the gala. Marty will have to do that alone. Marty asks if she's okay, and Wendy says, yeah, she's just wrapped up in something. Marty tells her to take it easy for the next few hours, and Wendy tells him that she's easy. She's very easy. They're both going to work on ironing things out.
you just get the feeling that Wendy's I know Marty knows his wife. He's got to pick up on it that she's totally not very easy right now, right?
No, and this is again, there's a whole, because Marty talks to her, and on this conversation, Marty references telling her about like he's going to help her to the finish line, and that's what he's doing and everything. But we never heard any of that. Like that obviously probably took place in a conversation after she banged her head into the window. And it feels like some major stuff just got skipped here. Because think about it, Marty wasn't talking to her really. Like, I mean, he was doing a little bit when he was forced to for the kids, but he was really, and now all of a sudden he's kind of all back in on Team Wendy to a certain extent. Yeah. Like some major shit happened and we missed all of it.
So I don't know if maybe it's just he feels bad because she broke down and self-harmed. I mean, obviously he knows she did. I mean, that's something you should probably talk about. Like,
that's why would they skip that conversation? Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. And now, like, it's not like that's not what we should have to guess at. I'm okay with guessing it. Oh, who's going to run the cartel or something like that? But trying to guess it like this emotional conversation they had off screen, I don't know. That's not very satisfying to me.
From there, Magnum Mills, Marty arrives at the jail to meet with Omar and Camelia. Omar wants to know why his lieutenants haven't received their gratitude fees. Marty tells them about Nathan trying to take their kids. Omar says that he's sorry, but he has become officially impatient. Marty will launder the money through the casino, and his bookkeeping will be perfect. Perfect, Marty. It has to be, because once Omar is off the SDN list, the heat will be on him. Marty agrees, but it's not like he has any other option either. I like a little bit of like, they have been using Omar as just banging the drum for increasing the amount of money being laundered at the casino. And they did that even before the Ruth takeover of the casino. I like the tension between Marty and the cartel, but that tension hasn't bled its way over into any of the other major characters. And I guess that's my main problem with it. This is a real issue for Marty. He has to start laundering more and do it now. He's at risk of not laundering anything through the casino, which the whole point, everything they did to get that created was to be able to launder large amounts of money. So
this he literally says that later in the episode. This casino was literally created to launder money for the Navarro cartel. And you can understand why Omar doesn't understand. Well, why is this a problem? Like this is the whole Marty. That's how he saved his ass. Remember pitching the casino? Like that's one of the many times they've at the end of the season kind of pitched something I don't know, man. The whole thing doesn't really land. And even when Marty does the kids thing, he's like, yeah, I've been dealing with a family emergency. And Omar's like, yeah, an emergency that's more urgent than mine. And you kind of get it, right? Because Omar also got shaked and almost died when he was in there. So he really, really wants to get the fuck out of there. That's who he is. Like Marty, they promised him all this, and that's how he's always been. It's all right, you got me this. It's like, all right, what else can you give me? What else can you give me? And
yeah,
it seems perfectly fair that his patience is running out.
Oh, 100%. But it also allows basically they're doing that to allow Camellia to look like this very thoughtful, and this is how you calmly run an operation and get the most out of your workforce. Like it's kind of like a good cop bad cop scenario a little bit, right?
Yeah, I don't think that they're doing it together by plan, but I think that's how it's playing out because the show wants us to see, like, look at how smart Camellia is. Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to really show us, because obviously her and Omar haven't really conspired. If they're doing that off camera, and this is all like when they have scenes together later in the episode without Wendy or Marty there, if that's faked for us, then that's really, really hacky. So I'm assuming that's not it, and they're not conspiring together off screen. That wraps us up from there, and finally get out of jail, because that's not really much fun. And we see Wendy, and she's headed to the Bird Bank, aka Buddy's crypt, and she gets a call from Jim. Great news. I mean, like, Wendy's going to want to marry Jim, divorce Marty, marry Jim, despite the fact that he's gay, because he got Mary Schuler on board and things are really swinging in their favor. If they can pull this off, they'll own the Midwest. Wendy says, when we pull it off. She tells Jim that he's a beast, and she'll be there in a bit.
Not only that he's a beast, Magnum Mills, God, you're a beast. I mean, I do like the relationship between Jim and Wendy, and this Wendy needed this. God, didn't she? She was off the, she had both feet off the ledge and was hanging on by a goddamn, pinky finger here. She really needed this. We'll see if whether or not this is enough to get her to focus and kind of get past all the craziness happening personally, but she needed this win here.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Like, this feels a little bit meta here, because, you have the divorce line, but then, where it's like, oh, Jim, you want to divorce your husband and marry me. I got Mary Schuler. And everybody's like, that is unbelievable. And Jim says, yes, actually unbelievable. I think that's a little bit meta, with the show being like, yeah, just please swallow this. But then after that, I'll give Jim credit. He drops some solid knowledge here with, God, if we can pull this off, meet this fiscal goal, get this particular group of people to coalesce, at that point, game over. You own the Midwest. Everything else is generic business gobbledygook, but own the Midwest? I mean, this foundation has been falling apart the entire season, right? And then all of a sudden they own the Midwest. And Midwest, not saying anything against you, but if you're this easy to take over, then maybe you should be taken over.
Yeah, that's a fair point, Magnum Mills. I mean, it's tough, because there's some behind the scenes kind of political navigation with what's going on with Shaw Medical, and she just got the money back. And I guess the point they're trying to make is once that money comes in, the foundation regains its strength.
I mean, but Jim is basically like the equivalent of like an Infinity Stone or something now. Like, Wendy calls him up and he uses his magic powers to make it happen or whatever. Yeah, and it's kind of been that way for a while, but it's just, again, you can really see the gears straining to move the plot forward. It just feels off, man. The pacing feels off here. You should love this scene. I mean, let's remember Marty Byrde. How much money would he have paid at one point to hear Wendy Byrde say to him, God, you're a beast?
God, you're a beast.
From there, my dude, we see Wendy arrive back at the Lazy O, and she's there to see Nathan. She shows him a bag with over $2 million in cash. He's trying to resist, and Wendy says that she wants him to consider this money. She notices him glancing at his shoebox of booze, and she gives him a bottle out of it. Take a hit. Nathan takes a long hit off that bottle as he stares at Wendy, stares at that cash. Wendy tries to close the sale, but Nathan isn't biting. It's a lot of money, but he's going to go ahead and keep the kids. Wendy needs to go, or he's going to call the police. Before she goes, Wendy gets a couple of pretty powerful shots in on Nathan here about her mother. Unlike Nathan, her mom was a real Christian. Nathan gets out his phone, and Wendy warns him that she'll kill him before she lets him take her kids.
I guess that's the first thing, right? Does Wendy Byrde, we don't see it in this episode, but it could be possible. Like, that's why she says she's in the joint. Little early prediction. Does Wendy Byrde kill Nathan?
I don't think the kids ever make it there, so I'm going to say yes.
I'll say no, but I agree with you on the kids never make it there. I don't know what else to say, but this scene should have been huge, right? Like this should have been like, oh, this explains everything about Wendy Bird. And the main takeaway I had was like, oh, Wendy is just like her father, and that makes sense. Parents are a lot like their children, and that she knows it, and that's why she has kind of some level of self-loathing or whatever. But that's it. It doesn't really go like all of a sudden Nathan's kind of like a closet alcoholic. We never really got that before. And then when they're yelling about, his wife, her mother, since they're both liars, who can we believe? There's no satisfaction because you have, for all you know, they're both lying, or maybe they're both. There's just no. It's hard to get invested in the scene, and I feel like this was supposed to be like when they wrote it, like, oh, this is the scene between Wendy and Nathan, and it just, it's like a boxer who just like he thinks he's going to land the knockout punch and dude ducks, and all he gets is hair.
Yeah,
might being too harsh. I mean.
No, I mean, you're not wrong, dude. I think you're starting to realize that, yeah, Wendy's been proven to be a bad person, but I think we're starting to realize that Nathan's kind of a bad person too, especially if any of that shit's true about how he treated, Wendy and Ben, and also now their mother.
You get the idea that, because remember when she was on the courthouse steps, and then even here Nathan says like, oh, you humiliated yourself on the courthouse steps like a child. And Wendy says, that didn't humiliate me, it humiliated you. It feels like, man, they've done shit like that before, and she would go to that level to humiliate her dad. And it also means that Wendy Bird basically has no shame, which I think we kind of knew, but was more or less established. She tries to drop as many bombs as she can here. Just about like cheating on the mom knew it, she was a real Christian, not you, and I'll fucking kill you. I mean, she basically threw everything but the kitchen sink at him. And to his credit, like, he passed up $2 million to keep the grandkids. That has to mean something. Again, he's not the nice guy he appears to be, at least we've seen in the previous episodes, and you see that when he interacts with Ruth later on. He's still got kind of the crazy face on.
I think that about covers it, Magnum Mills. We see Marty next is back at the bell, hat in hand, asking for Ruth to let him launder money through the casino one more time. Navarro won't let him use any of his other businesses, and there is a time concern here. Ruth says that there will always be a concern. She cleaned up her record, and she's going to keep it that way. We knew Ruth and Wendy were having this fight, but now we know Ruth is having this fight with Marty too. So it's kind of like it went from being like Ruth versus Wendy to now Ruth versus both Marty and Wendy in her own way with different targeted, attacks.
Yeah, it makes sense because Ruth is clean now. And running a clean casino, that's still a way to make a lot of money. You don't need to launder money through it or anything like that. So you get why she would say like, well, fuck, I don't want to. What benefit to me is it to launder the money through here? And that's why I believe her when she says, as hard as it might be to believe, this ain't personal. I mean, it ain't all personal. You get it. Even at the end, like I said, she says, oh, there's always going to be concern. Marty's talking about the time concern. And if she cleaned up her record, then she should be able to keep it that way, right? I mean, she doesn't want Wendy and Marty shitting where she eats, and that makes a lot of sense. Nobody likes that, but you even see that later in the episode when Ruth is talking to Rachel. She wants to feel like she deserves this. And I think this is what this is all about. Like, you know what? I'm not going to just let you do this to me. I have no need to do so. And especially because he's still, on Team Wendy. Maybe if he severed all ties with Wendy, she'd help him out. But otherwise, I can't see she has any motivation to do so.
Well, and I guess my only thing here is, it bothers me that there's no fear of, well, you're going to do it whether you want to or not, because otherwise the cartel is going to come and torture you to death. Like, it bothers me that that's not there. It also bothers me that Marty's not utilizing what he has in his arsenal from the cartel to make this happen. It's like, dude, if you don't want to die, it's kill or be killed in this situation. You got to put it to Ruth here. Like, I just, it just feels like they're not making logical decisions to solve their problems. They're just letting them, they're just allowing themselves to lose.
And I mean, Ruth, I think they play it off at the end of that. She says the one line, oh, and I figure if they're going to do anything, they'll blame you. So she's just trying to play it off. Well, if it's going to come down, it'll come down on the bird somehow, and that'll be that. Again, I think it's because we thought it was cool when she killed Javi so fast, but in retrospect, it was too easy. Now it's like created this like whatever. She'll take somebody else out. And even at the end of the episode, they take Nelson out. I don't know if it's necessarily easy, but it feels like maybe a little bit too easy for what we hear at some point is the biggest drug cartel in the world.
Absolutely. From there, Magnum Mills, we see Marty and Wendy are in the backyard discussing their next move. Wendy thinks she can smurf the money through the casino in a few days. Marty has his doubts. He does not think so. He wants to use the foundation's upcoming gala to clean the money, but Wendy doesn't want to do it. Wendy goes off about how the foundation is going to do all these great things and help people. And all that goes away if there's even a whiff of an investigation. Image is everything in that world, and she can't lose that. Wendy switches gears and tells Marty that he needs to get the kids home. Marty gets up to go inside and tells her that he doesn't know if he can do that. Wendy tells him that if he won't do it, she will. Marty asks her what that means, and Wendy says, "What the fuck do you think it means?"
Dude, Wendy, yeah, she wants everything, right? I mean, it's hard to have any sympathy for her as a character at this point, and she's just throwing even more and more at Marty.
Yeah, yes. I mean, Marty has how many impossible challenges can Marty take on at once?
Let's be honest here. In a vacuum, Marty might agree with his kids being taken away. I don't, Marty, if he knows the situation, wouldn't he want the kids to be out of there anyways? So it seems like, what is his motivation to push extra hard to do everything he can to get them to stay when he doesn't know if he can protect them?
If Marty loses the mindset and his focus on he just has to do whatever it takes to get his family free and take care of and get his kids free, I don't think he can do this anymore. That's literally what made him do just the most unthinkable things. Was not necessarily fear of his own life. It was keeping his family safe. And if he loses that and the kids are gone, do you see Marty having the willpower and the mental toughness to like push forward with this without the thought of like, I can't let my kids be tortured and murdered by the cartel? I don't know. I think he needs it.
No, that's an excellent point, dude. And I think that sums it up perfectly, right? Because Marty, all he wants to do is survive. And you hear that even Rachel brings it up later in the episode where she's like, oh, you don't even care about any of this, right? It's all Wendy. But Wendy wants it all. And that's it, right? He just won't give up Wendy. And that's why I feel like whatever scene we missed or something that got him, he was almost completely off of Team Wendy at the end of the last episode. And now he's not all the way back on, but he's got 1 foot back in the boat, and this whole thing is just kind of a struggle for me. It makes somewhat sense, but it's, again, it's like, hearing a song with only the left or the right ear pod or something like that.
What's crazy is we went from, the last 2 episodes, the one episode, it ends with Mad Marty getting in a fight, not speaking to Wendy. We go from there to the whole thing where they lose their kids. Wendy makes a big scene. She does the self-harm in the car. Again, nothing. And now we're back in this where he's, on Team Wendy 100%. It's you're right. It feels like we're missing something.
Yeah. And, we don't need to dance on that grave anymore. And from there, we go to the Lazy O. Marty's gone over there to make one last pitch to Charlotte and Jonah. Marty tells him that family is the most important thing. And Jonah replies that Grandpa is family. Marty says, yeah, but they don't know him. Jonah retorts that, well, he knows that he's better than Mom. Charlotte doesn't necessarily agree with that, but she has a question for Marty. If the birds were somehow free and clear tomorrow, and of course we know that's not going to happen, but if it did, would he stay with Wendy after all she's put him through? Marty says that he's going to stay because that's how they get through this. But afterwards, they will all have decisions to make.
It kind of feels like Marty's like a little bit excited about maybe being able to leave Wendy after all of this. Like maybe
he's at least accepted the fact that might be an option. Whereas before it seemed like he would do whatever it takes. I think he's accepted the fact that if he can get his family out and safe, then if they fracture, at least he got him safe, right? He's willing to take he's willing to, like Wendy, to take a partial victory.
Yes, because that's what he's analyzing it. That's a win for him. 1 win is better than, half a win is better than no win at all in Marty's
mind.
I
think, we saw that. I think that was the metaphor in the, the parking, in the traffic jam, right? Where do you want me to go to the car? Do I go left? Do I go right? The car there, What do you want me to do? Go up? He has to find some way that's out. And it's basically a no win in that he can't win. He's just got to find a small win, which is get his family safe. But I think he's close to accepting now that maybe that doesn't include Wendy. He might just it might just be the kids.
Well, and she brought it up in the kitchen, and even though he denied it, once that seed gets planted, it's tough not to think about it, even with all the other shit they have going on here.
After that, we go back to the Missouri Belle, where Wendy and Rachel are walking through and they're checking out the preparations for the Bird Foundation Gala, the fundraiser. Wendy reminds Rachel that the casino was built for one purpose: to launder Omar Navarro's money. Rachel tells her that the casino will run perfectly for their fundraiser, but outside of that, she has no use for Wendy. She drops a couple of choice insults on Wendy and leaves to order the town cars for the gala. Wendy seems a bit flustered by Rachel's words.
This was really good dialogue between Rachel and Wendy, and it kind of drew the line in the sand. Rachel is all in on Team Ruth, and she reports to Ruth, and it's the double R. It's basically the Rough Riders, of Ozark here, the Ruth and Rachel. And the exact same way Ruth feels about Wendy and Marty, Rachel has inherited that feeling too. And so she doesn't like it. And she's taking a sense of happiness and screwing over Wendy and Marty for sure.
Yeah, I guess the other takeaway here is that Wendy calls out what we've been saying a little bit when Rachel's like, oh, Ruth hired me because I'm a good manager. And Wendy's like, well, the last business I knew of wasn't it failing? Wasn't it going bankrupt? And that's what we've heard about here. So again, just something that doesn't quite track, but I'll give her credit here. Rachel does seem to be on top of the thing at the casino. Maybe it's because she had the substance abuse issues or whatever, but still it is odd, especially because Ruth ran the casino before. Like, why isn't Ruth running the casino? I guess just to give Rachel a job. Again, just she seems superfluous here. Like, she's here because Ruth doesn't have anybody else, right? What was the other option? I guess to bring Frank Jr. in full time. That dude's got a show on Stars or whatever. He's in the one of the Power spinoffs, so they probably couldn't get him enough to make it work. So they had to, all right, who can we bring back to give Rachel or to give Ruth somebody like a comrade here? And after that, we get a super duper short scene. We just go to the birdhouse and we see that Charlotte and Jonah, they pack their final boxes. They're walking out. They say like, hey, we're leaving. And Marty's like, all right, I'll come walk you out. And Charlotte asks like, you coming, Mom? And Wendy, nope, she's not coming to say goodbye. Marty walks them outside, and that's that.
Not only is she not coming, Magnum, she's not even making eye contact. She's not saying goodbye. One thing that kind of bothers me here a little bit, and I'm surprised Wendy didn't stoop to this level, was she could basically hold it over Jonah's head. Like, you think you're going to be able to launder money and reconcile 11 Panamanian accounts when you're living with your grandfather in North Carolina? What's going to happen to all that? What if I expose that? I'm surprised they didn't go that angle. Again, there's so much that doesn't make sense about the kids.
Well, at that point, it's all done because he was Ruth's not going to do any dirty shit anymore in theory. So she doesn't.
He has all his own accounts and shit. He's still.
Oh no, but yeah, I mean, he could do. My guess is those are already established. But yeah, you're right. It's going to be a completely different lifestyle than he's used to.
Yep,
100%.
Well, it just shows Wendy is, she is just, man, when she doesn't get her way, dude, she
doesn't even consider, what the kids want. Like, not
just
once
saying goodbye to your kid. How could you not say goodbye to your own kid? Like, I don't care how unhappy you are.
Right. And I think later in the episode, we'll see maybe that she regrets it by the fact she keeps going back to Jonah's room. But after that, we see, of course, because it's Wendy Bird, she's going to try her plan to smurf all the money through the casino. And we see Ruth and Rachel walking through, and Ruth, she knows exactly what she's doing. She spots them all as all the smurfs thrown out of the casino. And you see that Wendy and Marty are watching a surveillance feed from a laptop at their house. Marty says that she's not going to let him have it. He's going to bed. Wendy finishes her wine, makes a call on her phone, and asks someone to do a favor for her. And pretty much, like, who do you think she was calling when she did that? I figured it was pretty obviously somebody to rough Ruth or Rachel up, which proved
I'm pretty sure it was Nelson.
Right.
She's shown that she's called Nelson before to spook, to do different things. So I definitely got the feeling that it was Nelson.
Yeah, I keep hoping that we get something kind of new, or not new, but a little bit unexpected like that. But that's pretty much as expected what Wendy Bird's next move would be.
From there, my dude, it's after work at the Bell, and Rachel gets in her car and Nelson is waiting for her in the back seat. He puts a gun to her head and tells her that she needs to let his colleagues launder money through the casino. He makes Rachel say, I understand, and he takes off. The next morning, Rachel confronts Marty about Nelson's ambush. They quickly realize that it was Wendy, but it doesn't matter. Rachel loudly tells Marty that he's going to have to fund somewhere else to launder his drug money. She doesn't understand what he's got against Ruth. Marty says he has nothing against Ruth. He just has no other options. Rachel points out that what Marty already knows, he can launder the money through the foundation's gala. Marty tells her that he can't, and Rachel realizes that it's because of Wendy. Marty doesn't give a shit about any of this. It's all Wendy. Rachel says that she hopes that she's worth it, man. And Marty apologizes about Nelson, saying that was unacceptable. Marty begs her to help him with Ruth, swearing that's the last time he'll ever ask her for anything. Rachel says, okay. Can I be honest with you, dude? I know it seems like we've been kind of shitting on this episode. I fucking hate this scene. Are you kidding me? It's unacceptable. You're going against the cartel. You're lucky he didn't pull out your fucking eyelid. Like, are you kidding me? No, it's completely acceptable. You don't have the hand, Ruth and Rachel. Like, I'm sorry, I love Ruth. You don't have the hand. I just hate that they're just like making the cartel so insignificant that like we do what we want. Like, it's just not a big fan of it at all.
Well, and also think about this. They're also all of a sudden their foundation, they're going to own the Midwest, but yeah, just one Ruth Langmore and one fucking Rachel, they're fucking them up. They're going to own the Midwest. Seriously, these people, they can't even get their own fucking house in order. It's just very incongruous here. Like this, it's like train tracks that don't line up, man. You can't keep the,
Marty's got a nut up here, dude. He's got to say, stop talking about Wendy, stop making assumptions, do what the cartel tells you, or you're fucking dead. What are you playing nice for? This just infuriates me.
To a certain extent, I did like that they still have pretty good chemistry together. And I like that they did make Rachel seem a little bit smarter here because she also figured out that they could launder money through the event. So it leads a little bit of credence, I guess, to her being a decent manager, have some business smarts, that kind of thing. But yeah, for the most part, I did like how basically she just called Wendy. She's like, oh, you and your dick wife. Like, I've never really heard somebody refer to someone's wife as the dick wife.
You and your dick wife?
I don't know why, but that I just the way she said it. Yeah, it's you and your dick wife can launder your drug money 100 different ways. You insist on fucking with Ruth, and that's I think just like to the whole hard on for Ruth. They're going full on with the dialect or whatever, but I did enjoy that part of it.
But bro, what business tells the world's most powerful drug cartel what to do?
Oh, they're smoked.
None. Like there's no, like, you don't have any say. Like, I just
the only reason I'm not harping on that as much is because even though it was just Nelson, at least at the end of the episode they do start sending someone after them. At least it's a little, they make a move on it at least, so it's not like you said. Yes, they have a ton of hubris. Here is the word. They think that they can just do whatever. In worst case scenario, it all come down on Marty and Wendy, and that's especially for Ruth because she cares about Jonah and Charlotte. And if they get caught like Marty and Wendy like this, the cartel could kill Charlotte and Jonah. And that Ruth wouldn't want that. Hell, look at how she goes to bat for random asshole dude who's fucking accused of killing Wyatt. If she's going to go bat for him, she would for Charlotte and Jonah. So she's definitely, it's funny bringing it back around where she told Marty, like, she's clean now and she doesn't want them shitting where she eats. This feels kind of like, a little bit of shitting where she eats.
Sure does, my dude. And no, you're not having deja vu. Wendy again pulls up to the Central Ozarks Behavioral Health Center as the radio DJ discusses the upcoming storm. She's sitting in the parking lot and she declines a call from Marty. She tries to call Jonah, but it goes to voicemail. She puts down the phones, puts the minivan in gear, and takes off.
Yeah, not much here. It's just funny that she tried to call Jonah twice, but didn't try Charlotte at all, even though Charlotte's the one. Like, we know Jonah's out. Like, maybe she'd have a chance with Charlotte. Doesn't even bother. And when Wendy pulled in, just cut somebody off. Pure Wendy Bird.
And you got to appreciate just the constant mention of the upcoming storm. Clearly a metaphorical storm. And
a real storm.
And a real storm. But
that's why they do that.
Tell things are coming to a head here.
Yeah, especially making it feel biblical and that kind of thing. And that's pretty much it for that scene. After that, we don't know where Wendy's going. We know where Marty is, and he's leaving the Missouri Belle, where he's confronted by Ruth. Marty apologizes about Wendy sending Nelson to threaten Rachel, but Ruth does not give a fuck. She's rerouted the funds coming out of the Belle to U.S. banks where Marty won't be able to work his magic. Marty tells Ruth that as soon as the cartel finds out, they will come for her. Ruth replies, "Not if you do your job," and tells him to find another way to clean the money. Marty answers that he can't do it as fast as he needs to. Ruth doesn't care, but like she said before, it ain't personal.
Ruth's doing the right thing for her, but in no way, this is so unrealistic that like I can't look the other way on it, dude. In no way, shape, or form does they have a say in what the cartel wants to do. Like, no way, shape, or form. I don't know if maybe the show's trying to be like, oh, well, Marty, with everything going on with Navarro and Camila, he doesn't want to share with them that he's lost control of the casino because maybe that could cause them to just be killed right there because he's worthless. Maybe, but like, there's got to be like, I just can't believe that like Ruth is just being able to bulldoze him here, and there's nothing like, he has the cartel.
And I think part of the problem is they're setting up the narrative you've seen before. And it's like, usually it's a person who's condemned to die, or they have like cancer, or they're, so they don't give a fuck, right? That's how Ruth is operating. Like, there is no tomorrow. She doesn't care, but that's also not really how she's operating. You know what I mean? That's the intent of what she's doing. But realistically, she's building a house and doing this planning and everything, yet she's operating like she doesn't give a fuck who comes after her. It's, again, just doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit together. It's, you got a bunch of puzzle pieces and you're trying to mash them together. But at the end of the day, what's supposed to be, two fishes look like a dandelion and a half a panther or something.
Ooh, but 60% of the time, it works every time. We're back at the birdhouse, Magnum Mills, and we see Marty confront Wendy about sending Nelson after Rachel. He tells her what Ruth did and reminds her that getting Navarro off the SDN list without the money is useless. Wendy has another idea. They tell Camellia everything. They get her the deal with the FBI that Omar and Javi had, and they let her take Navarro out. Wendy doesn't think the FBI cares who the head of the cartel is as long as they get their money. Marty seems somewhat intrigued, and he asks Wendy if she thinks that she can get Camellia to do it. Wendy confidently replies, I can.
Wendy's not wrong when she says, look, I mean, these people to the FBI, they're interchangeable, they're disposable. Even if that's not true in real life, obviously, they've shown that in the show, right? It was like, oh, here's Omar, and then Javi switched in basically off screen, and now, bam, they're like, all right, switch it in again. I'm not saying that's right, but I guess it makes sense of why they would expect to be able to pull it off.
It's kind of late in the game to be... I mean, is this their code red? Like, this is their nuclear option, basically. Like, it just,
yeah, but it feels like the same one they used with Javi already. This is exactly what they did. This is exactly what they did with Javi. It just, again, from a narrative standpoint in the writing, it's a bridge too far. Again, maybe there is some way that they're going to cleverly pull all this together and retroactively I'll feel better about it, but that's not the way I would ideally like my favorite television shows to be written.
Yes, feel the exact same way. I've got a lot of problems with that. It just seems kind of like the easy way out, I guess.
Yeah, and it's funny because Camellia does bring this up, and we're going to move on to the next scene in a minute, that what prevents her from killing the birds after she settles all this? I mean, hell, couldn't she probably just kill the birds and even take over the foundation? That's the only thing they don't, like you said, like people are not considering the consequences properly, I feel.
Well, she doesn't care about the foundation. She could just funnel.
But she loved the money. She doesn't want to do what Wendy does. She wants to use it probably as a, more.
Yeah, but she'd only lose. She could shut it down and just take the remaining 100 million that's coming and whatever's left in it.
Right. Wind it down gradually and pay herself off to their dummy corporations and launder it back into the cartel. Yeah, absolutely. So she doesn't need the birds, especially if they can't use the casino anymore, right?
100%. A lot of problems with it.
After that, we get to another scene I have a couple of problems with, and we're at the Lacio, and Nathan, he's got some empties he's trying to get rid of, but apparently he's gone from the shoebox into a grocery bag now, and he can't figure out how to make them fit into like the opening of a public trash can. And dude, you should have been able to figure this out, Nathan. And as he's doing it, Ruth walks up and she's like, oh, hey, what are you doing? And Nathan tries to play it off like Annalise, like she's really into that Mexican Coke. No, not the cocaine yet, but the sweet stuff. And much like we saw him with Wendy, Nathan still seems a little bit drunk and riled up. He and Ruth start talking about her job at the casino and the education of Charlotte and Joan in North Carolina before the talk turns to Ben. Ruth speaks fondly of Ben, but Nathan insults her by saying that she wasn't Ben's type. He liked brunettes, just like Nathan. And he adds, you can't trust blondes. Plus, they're smart-mouthed. Ruth leaves for work, and Nathan gives up and leaves a bag of empty bottles on top of the trash can.
Yeah, I mean, Nathan's a massive asshole, dude. He's a misogynistic, abusive dickhead who thinks he can talk down to women. This is completely unacceptable. And I've seen Nathan as this way the whole time. And we've butted heads a little bit on this, where you've been kind of giving him the benefit of the doubt, where deep down inside, maybe but I've seen him as this kind of asshole the entire time. I mean, he's the male version of Wendy, like maybe worse. Like if you gave him everything Wendy had access to, could he be worse? Probably. When your whole motivation is to expose to your kids exactly what you think of their mother and make it so they never want to talk to you again and poison them against you, that is unhealthy for any kid. That is not having their best interest in mind.
It's kind of the one thing that stuck out to me here just a little bit was the blonde comment that Nathan says, oh, he hates blondes. Do you think that A, like Wendy's mother was a blonde, and or B, he didn't really care about blondes until Wendy and like his own daughter put him off blondes.
Well, what's really weird about this is Annalise is blonde. I mean,
yeah, right.
It's like, I think he was just looking for anything.
I think she's bottle blonde, but still.
Yeah, but I think he was just looking, he was drunk and belligerent and looking for anything to put down Ruth, period. And Ruth went there because I think Ruth, after that whole scene on the steps of the courthouse to end last episode, I think she's starting to see him for what he really is. And she's worried a little bit about Jonah and Charlotte going there. I really do. I think that's why you saw her kind of stand back and watch how he handled that. I think she's starting to kind of see through it. And this was her kind of sniffing around, and man, she smelt it. He dealt it and she smelt it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that also adds, because she's known both Wendy and Ben. I think this gives her some context of like why they're both really fucked up people. Yeah. And obviously she knew too when she was watching him put the bottles in. Ruth knew, like, and that's why she says, "Oh yeah, I love beer." So that's, Nathan isn't, as tricky as he thinks he is, I think.
He is not.
And after that, boy, this is a scene. I think it's supposed to be one of the, the biggest scenes in the series. And we go to the birdhouse where Camilla is meeting with the birds, and they lay it all out for her. They tell her the truth about working for the FBI, all that stuff. But she says that she's known for a while. Marty tells her that as long as the FBI gets their money, they'll leave her alone. Camilla notes that if she takes over the cartel like they're asking, that'll leave the birds free to run their foundation and play kingmaker. She asks how the bird children are doing because family is important to her. And since family is important to her, she wonders why they think that she'd kill her own brother in order to take over the cartel. Wendy reveals that they know she was behind the previous attempt on Omar's life. Camilla asks why, after knowing all that she knows now, would she keep the birds alive? The birds explain that with them, she gets to run the cartel under the protection of the FBI. She gets exactly what she wants, to be everything and nothing all at once. Camilla agrees and shakes Wendy's hand. Marty says that he'll arrange a meeting with the FBI, and Camilla says that she needs to meet with Omar one last time.
You got to love Camilla. She's kind of running circles around him a little bit, and she has been the entire season. She's always one or two steps ahead. And, I like her negotiation tactics, man. She's got an interesting style, and she's pretty staunch. She usually gets what she wants.
Totally agree. It's just, she's so formidable. It just bringing her in this late in the game and all, like, she's so good. She hasn't made a mistake yet, right? It's just, right. How do we never hear about her before? It's just kind of one of those things, again, bothers me a little bit. Overall, I think this scene, again, it's supposed to be huge. And some of the dialogue is great, especially, Camilla gets most of the good line. She's like, "Oh, don't pretend any of this is for my benefit. If I run the cartel with the approval of the FBI, that means they'll stop investigating you, and you'll be free to run your foundation and play kingmaker." And to be perfectly honest, I feel like that line is directed straight at Wendy Bird, not so much at Marty. This is the one good part at the end where you saw kind of the tag team sell job by Marty and Wendy when she asks, "Why? Now that I know all this, what makes you think that I won't kill you?" Marty says, "Because with us, you get the FBI. You get to run the biggest cartel in the world and never be on any most wanted list. Never see a prison cell." And then Wendy closes it with, "You'll be everything and nothing at once," which, if I'm not mistaken, is exactly what you want. Good sell, but like, what does Camilla have to lose? She takes their deal or whatever. If she doesn't like it, she can kill him and go back to Mexico, right? I mean, it's like a win-win for Camilla, I feel.
Oh yeah, she's got all the hand here. I mean, she's in control. She's going to get everything she wants out of them, use them, and then dispose of them. And if not, there's no way Omar wasn't killing them when he got out of prison anyway. So really, this is their only chance to live, maybe extend it just a little bit longer. Because I think Omar was serious about wanting to kill them and would once he's safely back in charge.
Clean up the rest of the scene. Like, if she had known they were working for the FBI for a while, wouldn't she have like done something or told Omar or something like that? Doesn't quite track to me. And we see now here she's drinking the good stuff. She'd always been drinking wine or coffee previously. She has kind of leveled up. So I think the show maybe is trying to show something a little bit with that, with the stuff people drink. So we've talked about that a little bit with the clear stuff, the dark stuff, the wine, whatnot. I think it was a great scene. I just don't think it landed the way the show wanted it to for me.
From there, Magnum Mills, we see Wendy is meeting with Jim, and they're discussing getting Schaefer off the board. It's very difficult to do unless they don't need to get Omar off the SDN list. In that case, they can replace him. Overall, getting rid of Schaefer shouldn't cause many problems and could potentially be a good thing. I mean, not a whole lot to this. Basically, she's all in on not getting Omar off the SDN list. and this whole thing with Camellia, and she gets to kind of get her cake, get rid of Schaefer, and she's still trying to move the pieces around to get what she wants out of the foundation, and she's all in on it no matter what.
Yeah, that gets her off the hook for the voting scheme. And you can tell she'd like to give the personal fuck you to Schaefer and give the shout out to just the exchange where Wendy's like, oh, it might be that we don't need him off the list after all. Jim's like, why? You plan on killing another cartel head? And Wendy's like, no, not at all. We're not planning that at all.
It might be that we don't need him off the list after all.
Why, you planning on killing another cartel head?
No.
And
wouldn't be the first one.
No, and that's why he even said another. That's where we're at in this show. And where we're at in this episode is Omar is meeting with Camilla in jail. They make some small talk and they reminisce about Camilla's wedding back in the day when Omar was only 15. And you can tell that back in the day, Camilla was quite fond of a young Omar. This leads to a moment of silence where they lock eyes. Omar slowly shakes his head and says that he did not kill Javi. He adds that Javi was not a traitor and he doesn't know who killed him. He just uses that to see who was who. Camilla asks him who told him about Javi's death, and Omar responds,
Wendy Bird.
This was a nice little twist here. Everything was kind of shaken out the way it needed to be, and it was that one last visit, and now she potentially may change her mind here. And, she would have been more apt to kill him knowing he killed her son. Maybe we'll see how drunk on power she is here. Because either way, if she doesn't kill him and she exposes Wendy and Marty's plan, once they get what they want, she's everything. If she kills him, she has everything anyway. So, she's in a good position here, but I like this. I like the show putting this little twist in. Give credit where credit's due. This was a cool twist.
Yeah, I think I 100% co-sign with you on this scene, and just shout out Veronica Falcone. She plays Camilla, and dude, she's just quietly intense. She's shaking a little bit if you watch her at the table. I think just a really fine acting job by her. And the actor who plays Omar, I forget his name, but he always does. He's been a steady presence as Omar throughout the series. After that, we go back to the birdhouse where Marty is leaving, and he gets a call from Camilla. She asks him who killed her son. She needs Marty to tell the truth. Omar told her that he didn't order it. Marty filibusters for a minute, saying that he doesn't really deal with that side of the business and he's not really the one to talk to. Camilla says, all right, she'll talk to him soon. And I mean, did Marty say you need to talk to Wendy without saying you need to talk to Wendy? I think not that side of the business. I mean, isn't that kind of feel like a coded phrase for something?
Yes, but again, why is he protecting Ruth, who's making everything difficult for him? I think Marty's gone soft, bro. He's gone soft, and he's not thinking. The Marty we know would have had a step or two ahead of this. And when that phone call came and when she found out, he would have had a reason. Marty just seems slow, beat down, and just lost his fight, doesn't he? I know we had the Mad Marty and he kicks the shit out of the guy, but overall, blow for blow here, it just seems like he just can't get it up anymore. He's just lackluster in all of his shit.
Again, it really feels like we missed something. There's no other way to put it. Either that or the pacing, the editing, the writing, at least two of those three things are just wildly off for some reason. It just doesn't work the way it should. And I guarantee you it's not landing like the writers that envisioned it when they wrote these scenes.
And again, that's why it was so stupid not to be honest about it from the beginning. It just, and not even if he did give up Ruth, that means they were protecting Ruth over the cartel. That's a death sentence. I mean, they're just, by lying, they just screwed themselves royally.
We saw a little bit of them good working as a team to sell the end of the Camilla deal, but it feels like that's been less and less as we've gone on here, where that they're working in Congress together well, as opposed to kind of working against each other.
From there, Magnum Mills, we're at the future Langmore estate. Work is progressing quickly. Ruth and Rachel are sitting on the outdoor couch and taking it all in. Ruth offers to let Rachel live there, and when it's done, Rachel tells Ruth that she deserves all of this.
I mean, pretty simple here. Keeping with the theme, Rachel says, it's okay to move up, you deserve this. They talked about it because it's a rich person thing, but think about it. We've seen Wendy Bird. She's at her best in, random, just square rectangular parking lots. Would a circular driveway, kind of take away her advantage, so to speak? Is that why Ruth put in the circular driveway?
Yeah, I think it's Wendy Bird's kryptonite, so to speak, isn't it?
That brings us from the Langmore estate to the birdhouse. In Wendy is sad Wendy. We see Wendy, she's just kind of sitting in the doorway of Jonah's old room. She hears some knocking at the front door and she ignores it. Father Benitez walks in and says that her door was kind of open. And he tells her that Omar wants to meet. He had an uncomfortable meeting with his sister that morning, and he wants to know what they have to say. Wendy says, okay, but she makes zero effort to move. Father Benitez asks her what's wrong, and Wendy explains the situation with her children. Father Benitez can sympathize with her. His father was a massive prick, but he forgave him. Still, there was a time when he had to choose between either killing the man or joining the church. This seems to do something for Wendy, and she jumps up and thanks him as she leaves.
I guess he didn't mean now. I mean, usually when the head of the cartel comes to you, sends somebody to you and says, I want to see you, it typically means the rest of your calendar is done because what you're doing right now is going to see him because he requested you. I like the conversation between Father Benitez and her, and you can see how distraught she is, and she just has nothing left to live for, losing her kids. And okay, it's a stretch considering we've watched her give up other family members, but okay, I understand a mother losing her children. Okay, but I don't get how it's not like, well, no, you're not going to do something right now. I'm glad I inspired you, but your ass is coming with me and Nelson, and we're going to see. Like, again, it just doesn't feel like the cartel like lost their toughness here. It's very bizarre.
It's also, I don't know if again this is maybe a COVID thing or something, but they should have more than just Nelson. Like, how is he their only, like we say cover on Saul Over Soon, where we cover Better Call Saul. They have a different cartel involved, and they have more henchmen than they know what to do with. And if they run out of those henchmen, they find some new henchmen. And I just think it's very unrealistic that they only have Nelson covering all of this. Like you said, because it doesn't, again, it's underplaying their power, I feel.
Definitely is. From there, Magnum Mills, we see Wendy gets dropped off by a taxi this time. And yes, she's back again at the Central Ozark Behavioral Health Center. She walks up to the front desk and she tells John, her old friend, that he's either going to admit her or she's going to kill her father. He sighs, hands her the paperwork, and she begins to fill it out.
I guess that ties back to the previous scene, because you heard Father Benitez talk about, but there was a time when it was either kill the man or join the church. And when he's like, is that right? So do you think this kind of, he inspired her to do this, right? It's just, when she was first doing this, I'm like, all right, so she's checking herself in here. What's next? I was hoping it was something more complex than it ultimately turns out to be. Spoiler.
Well, and in the end, we find out later that like her whole thing is she wants the kids to worry about her and guilt them into staying because she's having a mental breakdown, which is a horrible thing to do.
You can't be much more passive aggressive than checking yourself in to the facility where your brother, who you allowed to have killed, was checked in order to garner sympathy from your children, especially Jonah, because I'm assuming that's who she's going for here. For some reason, she's ignoring Charlotte and just basically, I think, trying to bring Jonah back.
Maybe she thinks that, it'll bring back, they'll feel for her like they felt for Ben.
Do you think?
I think it's a last ditch effort.
Real quick before we move on, do you think she'd actually kill Nathan? Yes or no?
I think she could, yeah. I think she
could, but would she actually go seek him out? I can see her doing it in rage, but do you think she could do it premeditated?
I don't know, man. It's hard to say.
Just got trying to see if there's any realism to her being checked in here, because she does say later on that to Marty, she'll kill her father if she's out of here. But
the bigger issue is these places, even when you check, you don't just leave whenever you want. She's got the hugest fundraiser, all this stuff going on with Jim, and in a day or two, they got the whole thing with trying to launder the money.
You talk about investigations, and she can't have any suspicion. She's getting checked she's checking herself in even to a mental institution. That too,
with the foundation, they have been summoned by Omar. They've got all these things, and she's just it just doesn't make any sense that she could even do that with all the other things. It's just.
Yeah, Wendy, you're making a sigh, and of course, because this is The metaphors arrive. The big storm is here. And at the bell, Ruth arranges to eat dinner and watch Duck Dynasty later with Rachel. Marty comes to see Wendy at the behavioral hospital there. And Wendy explains that the whole point of what she's doing is to worry the kids. Marty reminds her that they have a fundraiser in 2 days. Wendy just says to tell the kids that she's in there. Marty asks what he's supposed to do about Camilla and Omar. Wendy doesn't care. If she leaves, she's going to kill her dad. No matter what, she's not leaving there until she has her kids back. Exasperated, Marty says, okay, and gets up and leaves.
It just feels like they're just like giving up. Like, oh, well, I don't care if we die. Like it's.
Yeah, dude, basically, I was hoping that there was a level to the plan. Her plan appears to be guilt trip her kids. That's fucking it. It's not only is it selfish, it's a terrible fucking plan. And she's leaving Marty in a fucked situation, which she created, which I'm pretty sure he's going to solve by laundering money through the foundation, which she is in turn going to flip the fuck out on him about. So again, Marty still stuck in that traffic jam with nowhere to go, I feel kind of. Yeah,
it's disappointing. All season, actually, I've been waiting for them to have that 2-step ahead plan where you don't see it and you think everything's going wrong, but they thought ahead and they had a winning solution that you find out when they're winning. It's been nothing but like
the heist movie type
and,
of switch or some Ocean 11 type shit or something.
Yeah, man, even a little Breaking Bad-ish where they figure out a way, and we've kind of seen that throughout the first 3 seasons, and they did not give us that this season at all. And it's just basically, it kind of sucks. It's not as fun to watch because they're not getting out of anything. They're not solving any of the, they're just kind of like giving up. And they're like, it's like they were really good at their jobs and figuring all this shit out. And then like, oh, it's the last season, so now they suck. And so we're just going to let everything compound, never get solved. And then it all blows up.
Yeah. It's like the Roots 4th album, right? Things fall apart. It's just, but shout out Ruth, because she got a little, one good Ruth one-liner in here. We can watch Duck Dynasty and feel good about ourselves. I did like that. This is just Wendy being exasperated that Marty doesn't get her plan was pretty great. When Marty's like, oh, we got this new deal with Camilla. Are you going to make me handle that all on my own? And Wendy says, if I leave here, I'll kill him. Marty's like, who? What do you mean who? My dad. And Marty's like, okay, that's enough. It's almost like chew your gum, girls. Like even Marty Bird has had enough of Wendy.
Hello, Charlene.
I'm Marlene.
Hello, Marlene.
I'm Charlene.
Chew your gum.
Yeah, it's like, all right, she's lost it. I'm done. I don't have time for this. I mean, he doesn't. He's got a serious problem, multiple serious problems, and she's, playing
some of maybe even a majority, which were created by Wendy. And hey, she's willing to, hotbox with God or whatever, and God is sending the rain down on the Ozarks. And we see Ruth driving through it all, and she notices that Nelson is following her. She goes up to the police station parks. She flips Nelson the double bird and heads inside. She gets Ronnie to go into his office, and she tells him everything about Javi murdering Wyatt and Darlene. She admits to killing Javi. She tells him all of it. And then she drops it on him. He'll never be able to prove it. And if he tries to, she'll tell everybody that he's crazy, because of course it is crazy, and he'll do nothing about it. Point being, there's an innocent man in jail accused of Wyatt's murder. Right is right. Ruth tells Ronnie that he's going to be a good sheriff, and then she leaves to go back into the store.
Yeah, and you kind of see that she's now able to buy him. She did a little Wendy Bird here, but she did it for what she believes is the right reason. She needed to come clean with this. And you see, as bad as it is for Ruth and the fact that she killed a man to start this, second half of season 4 here, she still has a little bit of a moral compass in her. And, she's playing politics here and doing what she's got to do.
One thing that bothered me a touch is Ruth's like, and you ain't gonna find any evidence because this is some high level shit. Meanwhile, she threw the murder weapon like 10 feet off of the from where she lives.
It's literally washed up on the bank.
I kind of like Sheriff Ronnie though. I'll say I like it, him and the actor. I like the way they played it, because like, what could he really do? I mean, Ruth's not wrong unless he has recording devices in his office that were running. And Ruth wants so hard to be clean. And I get kind of when she says like, oh, the dude was born poor and an asshole, and only one of those is his fault. Like it's like the Langmore curse, and she's trying to help him out, but she knows he's already she's so willing to fight for keeping her record clean, everything. But then she tells the sheriff all of this. Like she didn't even have to tell him that Javi was killed or that Sheriff Nix was really dead. Like she just, I don't know. I think she went a bit too far. It out. There was a way to do this like Soprano style where you say it, but without actually saying it, right? Like, and I just, again, you love these characters, think they're smart. You want them to plan ahead a little bit better. And it just seems they're being very reactive and not proactive at all.
Mills, that takes us to the final scene, and we get Ruth exiting the station in the pouring rain, and she sees that Nelson is gone. She quickly surmises that he's going after Rachel. She calls Rachel and tells her to get the rifle out of the closet and run into the woods. She gets the rifle and she runs outside without shoes, but Nelson is already coming up the drive. Rachel climbs on top of the trailer and Ruth makes it clear when Nelson gets out of the car, she needs to kill him or he will find her and kill her. Nelson parks and gets out of the car, and Rachel hits him with the first shot. He's down, but he's not out. As he starts to get up, Rachel shoots him again, and this time it looks to be a wrap for Nelson. Ruth arrives to find Rachel standing over Nelson's dead body while still holding the rifle. Mills, I like this scene a lot. Couple of things that I didn't like. One, wasn't necessarily a big fan of, the last scene when Ruth realized she's getting followed. She gets out of the car, she flicks him off, marches into the thing. He drives away. It just seemed to a lot of time. She was in there. She wasn't in there for 5 minutes. I mean, she was in there for a little bit, spilling her guts out, working through all this. It seemed to work out too quick. Also, I didn't like that, like, Rachel didn't even have the phone, and yet she's holding it out here, and yet she's having this conversation. I like the scene, just little nitpicks there for me that I wasn't a fan of. But shout out Duck Dynasty. Sometimes that'll make yourself feel better about yourself, I guess.
Yeah, man, I think the main thing for me here probably is that, I'm glad that they didn't, I was worried that they were just going to bring Rachel back to kill her. Kind of glad that they didn't do that. I think none of us are really going to be sad about losing Nelson. Shout out the actor, did a good job playing like the creep, the heavy or whatever, but you kind of want to get that victory or whatever. But yeah, dude, this is all a little, like, I think they kind of set this up by Ruth and Rachel shooting those couple of shots into the trailer with the shotgun a couple episodes. Now she's going to be able to do that in the dark without shoes
in the rain.
And I get it, kind of. It's just not, there's no elegance to it, I guess, from a writing standpoint. This is like just being hit over the head with a blunt instrument. It's not wrong or anything. It's just, man, I was hoping for better or more. And I guess you have to say, right, like, if Nelson never told anybody what Ben told him, no one's ever going to find out. So there go a bunch of my predictions.
Wendy never gets to know. Wendy gets to live with the fact that she never knew that Ben accepted it and what he said at the end there. I mean, that's a little bit of tragedy in and of itself. Very typical of Ozark. Look, now this is 2 cartel members that Ruth is responsible for. She's got to be in trouble with the cartel, right? I mean, she's got to be the #1 target of the cartel. How do they hide this?
I don't think they can hide it. I just think this is the case now where Wendy Bird is in theory sidelined right now. So maybe she can team up with Marty, because I think she's willing to team up with Marty if Wendy's not involved. And this is the only way he convinces her, like, dude, Wendy's in a mental institution. Maybe there's a chance of a team up here, because otherwise I think they're both fucked, right? I think they have to team up to some way, take out somebody in the cartel or do something, and probably smuggle that money, right? Launder the money through the foundation gala. But it's going to rain, so who knows, dude? Who knows, dude? It's going to be the finale's going to be an episode, isn't it?
It really is. And I mean, speaking of episodes, I mean, that Magnum Mills, that was an episode of Ozark, wasn't it? And before we hand out some hardware here for Mud, let's look back at the symbols from the opening title card. Walk us through what they were again, Mills.
We saw a fish taking the bait hook. I think that could either be Wendy offering the money to Nathan or the birds offering the deal to Camilla. The clerical collar, I think, is obviously Father Benitez. The rod of Celpius is, I think, Wendy committing herself to the mental institution. And I think the raindrops are pretty obviously the storm. So not a lot to debate on that one. And that brings us to our favorite quote, our favorite line, dialogue exchange from the episode. My turn to go first here. I'll lead us off. And man, I wanted to do something kind of dramatic or whatever, but this was an episode where it was really random. So we go with something random, and that's just Wendy Bird going off about Ruth Langmore when she says,
Of course she did. I mean, what else can we do today? Oh, I know. Maybe I'll be impaled by a tree and I can lose an eye, and then I can be childless and hunted by a fucking Mexican drug cartel, and I don't know. Oh, what the fuck? I can wear a patch like a fucking pirate.
And I just, the way Laura Linney said fucking pirate, I just loved it.
For me, Magnum Mills, I'm gonna give this to Wendy, but with Rachel. I've got to do the whole kind of thing here because it was so perfectly done. And that's a scene on top of the Missouri Belle where.
But you should know, outside of the civility of doing business, I got no use for you. I think you are a ruthless, nasty bitch. I think you have no sense of humor or human fucking decency.
Whoa. But Wendy's response to herself under her breath was,
I do too have a sense of humor. Asshole.
You gotta love that she's not denying that she's a ruthless, nasty bitch or she doesn't have any human decency. No. What she's concerned about is her sense of humor. That definitely checked out for me. And now, Magnum Mills, it's time for us to choose our favorite moment or scene from the episode. I'm going to go first here. I'm going to give it up to that last scene. I like the tension. I like the rain. Yes, there's a lot that was kind of left you wanting more, or to your point, more elegance and grace done with it, more thought. But look, man, I basically can make that point for almost every scene, every major scene in this episode. So, here we are with the penultimate episode, and almost every big scene kind of felt like, I wish there was more. And this is kind of for me, the best of all of them, I guess. And so I'm going with that. I liked it. I thought for a minute Rachel was going to die. So I got a little bit of a surprise there. So I'm willing to overlook some of the other things and put this as my favorite scene.
Yep, Roger Dodger. And my favorite one isn't at a roller rink. It's actually, I like the scene with Camilla and Wendy and Marty where they basically break down the truth. I think you get good moments from all three characters. And to be honest with you, in this episode, that's tough to come by, where I think everything in the scene basically makes sense both from a character standpoint and a plot standpoint. So I did really enjoy that scene with Camilla and the birds. And that pretty much brings us to,
Hey, my buddy!
The moment we're going to have to find out our MVP of the episode. And I miss Buddy so much. My turn to go first here. I went up and down, but I got to go with Rachel, dude. I mean, she comes out of nowhere. She's running a casino. She's getting all sorts of good one-liners in, and then she takes out the bull. She takes out Nelson at the end. Again, it's not quite like, is Mike always right on Better Call Saul? But man, I think ruling with Rachel here, dude. Who's your buddy, dude? Here, who's your buddy, JVG?
Sold to the Esquire the Fifth in the Ozark podcast t-shirt. I'm also going with Rachel for all the reasons you spelled out. She's my clear-cut MVP. She's my buddy for this episode, titled Mud. Now it is time to find out just how fresh and how clean, so fresh and so clean, we think this episode of Ozark was. We're going to do it right here, right now on the Ozark podcast. We're going to grade this episode on a scale of 0 to 100% clean, with 100% clean being just what we said, 100. How clean is the proverbial money for Mud? I'm up first here, bro. People may weird out on me and say I'm being a little harsh here, and maybe I am, but I got this thing rated all the way down to a 75% clean for me. It's just not what I wanted it to be. And honestly, it's been a trend kind of after the first episode of, episode 8, basically everything from there has kind of gone each week. It's, each one's been a little bit less for me. So this is my lowest rated, graded episode of the season. And it's shocking as the one before the finale, but it's only 75% clean for me, dog.
Man, you talk about the up dog or whatever. There's not a lot of up dog here, man. I started like 68%. And I feel that's kind of being generous because I think the character work is good. I like what the actors are doing. I don't think there's any bad performances. The show looks good, that kind of thing. You get some fun one-liners, but man, the plotting and the storytelling and some of the characters, it's just all over the damn place. And it isn't just a case of where it's not just I hoped for something else. I don't mind if I hope for something in a show and they give me something that I didn't expect, as long as it's good. And this is like giving me like just, I don't know, it just feels like a really cookie cutter version of what the show could have been. And I feel like I was hoping for more.
Hard to argue that, Magnum Mills.
that brings us to, the point where we're gonna have to talk about what could happen in the fucking final episode of Ozark, dude. This is it.
Can't believe we're there, Magnum Mills. I can't believe we're there.
All right, let's just start with the car scene, dude. How's it gonna play out?
Man, way back when we first saw it, episode 1 of season 4, I kind of made a crazy claim that that's how the show's going to end. They finally get clean, they're on their way out, and they die horribly in a car accident. They get what's coming to them. You can never fully get free. Nothing comes without consequences. And I think I'm going to stick with it. Either that or it doesn't really happen. It's fake.
Dude, if they showed that and it's a fake out, because that was kind of my initial thing, is maybe that was how they were going to fake their death and like go into witness protection or something. I don't think there's any way here. Now I think it's going to be, best guess, it's a metaphor. Like at the end, either Marty or Wendy, they got to die. They go down in the torture basement there, they get on their knees, and when they're waiting to die, they go to their happy place. And that'd be the happy place, right? They're all in the van, they're together, they're happy, they're getting away clean. And then, the accident, that's the bullet ripping through your brain, ending your life.
Wow.
Kind of dark, but that it makes at least a little thematical sense. And I guess by showing it, doing the flash forward, at least soften people up to a little bit, because assuming it's Wendy or Marty, it's one of your main characters. So that's all I got.
I like it, Magnum Mills. And just so we're clear, Magnum Mills has not watched the final episode, and neither has I, Jamie G. We have not seen it. If Magnum Mills is right, he's on some next level shit. Let's just put it that way, because we've had no spoilers.
Well, I've changed my prediction a couple of times, but yeah, we have not. And trust me, you know how hard it is to do these things and not get spoiled? Like to just even find the directors and the writers and making sure you don't scroll down too far in the webpage. Not the easiest thing. Jamie G, do we get another Wendy and Nathan scene, even if it's to kill him?
I think we get one more. We're not done with Nathan, and I think we get one more involving Wendy, and that decides something major. And my guess is that the kids never go with Nathan.
How about Sam? We get another Sam scene in the finale. He's been saved now. He was baptized or anything. I think on Sam, our boy.
I don't think we get another Sam.
Ooh,
there's
that's
just
it?
too much.
He just goes out on the high note, sets himself up for the spinoff.
I think so, bro, because there's way too much that has to get figured out here. We don't really have time for Sam. I don't see Sam really playing a role here.
This was a crazy one, but remember, like when Ruth went to buy the boat that they turned in the Missouri Belle, it was like a piece of shit and everything. Wouldn't it be kind of ironic if it just sank in the store while the fundraiser was going on? Like, wouldn't that just be the perfect metaphor for the show? I don't know if it'll actually happen, but that feels kind of fun. I like that.
I do like that. Guard your groin here, Magnum Mills. How long of the episode is Wendy in the behavioral center?
One more scene tops. And I think she sucked Jonah in, dude. I think, because remember how Jonah was really upset when Wendy committed Ben? I think that's why she only called Jonah and not Charlotte, is that she thinks that Jonah is the one who will respond to her pulling this stunt by getting herself committed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only thing is, I mean, you kind of leaned into it a little bit. I mean, are you going with Marty and Ruth kind of working together one last time here to figure this thing out with the cartel?
It feels like they have to, basically. I mean, you have to think it's a Highlander thing with the cartel, right? There's no way Camilla and Omar both survived the final episode. Do you think which one of them dies, or do they both die?
I'm going to say Omar dies and they keep Camilla just in case there's a spinoff and they have something with her. I'm going to say that she lives, he dies.
Man, all right. I'll give you two alternate endings to the episode, to the series I would like. One would be Ruth sitting down to that table in Mexico and running the cartel, just like bringing the lieutenants together and having that meeting. I think that'd be cool. The other would be we kind of maybe do a little bit of a flash forward. I think maybe one of Marty or Wendy dies, and we see Ruth's got that big ass house built, the circular drive, and we see her on her big ass deck on that old bratty ass outdoor couch, and she's just sitting on it, looking out at the lake, drinking a beer, and that's how the series ends.
I prefer that one. That would be a good ending to me. And we get resolution with whatever's happening with the birds, and that will include the cartel just by way of it. And last scene, in my opinion, should be Ruth.
I think it almost has to be, because again, you with me on this, that we lose, like either one of Marty or Wendy dies.
Yes. I am with you on that.
Can't predict much more than that, dude. I think that brings us to dude, it's that time. We're approaching the final episode.
Yeah, excited to see this one through and find out how the story ends, man. And we just want to take a minute and thank you guys for checking out the Ozark podcast. We really appreciate all the views, the comments. I do want to shout out, we had one of our fans, one of our dudes reach out to us this week and remind us that way back in episode 8, when we could not figure out what the hell the dogs were in the title card, this viewer, this fan of the podcast, he reminded us and showed us that it was actually Ruth was hallucinating and she was seeing shit in the car, and she looked in her rearview mirror and saw 2 dogs run across the street, and she got out of the car and they were gone. Totally missed that. So shout out to that dude who he knows who he is. We appreciate the feedback. Keep them piling in. Keep it right here for our next episode, which will be covering season 4, episode 14. Yeah, the series finale. Yes. And it is going to be titled A Hard Way to Go. Whew, man. Please remember to like, subscribe, comment. Helps us out a ton. Magnum Mills, you're going to tell everybody where they can find the rest of our stuff, which is pretty awesome and free.
Awesome and free, baby. Even Ruth would be cool with that. Thank you for checking out the Ozark Podcast. You can find us at Ozark Podcast on your favorite podcast platform, at Ozark Podcast and social media, and you can send your feedback to OzarkPodcast@gmail.com. Now that we're here to the series finale, feel free to send all the spoiler stuff. We're ready to talk about it. I hope we haven't seen it yet, but next time we talk to you, we'll have seen it, and that'll be the thing. We just wrapped up covering Peaky Blinders on PBP, a Peaky Blinders podcast on your favorite podcast platform and on social media at Peaky Podcast. We are covering the 6th and final season of Better Call Saul on Saul Over Soon. Find us on your favorite podcast platform and social media at Saul Over Soon. We are covering Barry from HBO. It's not the NoHo Hank show, but maybe it should be. We are the Barry Podcast on your favorite podcast platform and on social media at Barry Podcast. And we continue to cover, we will never stop, can't stop, won't stop covering It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Love the gang, no matter how horrible they are, on The Night Pod Cometh. We are Night Pod Cometh on your favorite podcast platform and on social media. Thank you again for checking us out. I can't say how much we appreciate you running through this final season of Ozark with us. For the highs, for the lows, you're the people who make it worthwhile for us. We love talking about it. Love that you listen. Love your feedback. Thanks again. I'm Magnum Mills. He's Jamie Chi. One episode left. This has been the Ozark Podcast presented by the Joe Blow Football Show, and we'll see you next time for the finale. Until then, you only have to remember 2 things. First one's easy. Dirty money ain't worth a damn thing.
And the bird. The bird is the word. We'll see you next time on the Ozark Podcast.
It's the word. It's the bird.
This has been the Ozark Podcast, presented by the Joe Blow Football Show. We are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with Ozark, MRC, Aggregate Films, or Netflix. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Any views or opinions expressed here are personal and do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations who may or may not be associated with the Joe Blow Football Show. If you have any questions, please contact us at OzarkPodcast@gmail.com. That's OzarkPodcast@gmail.com. Thank you for listening. Please remember to like, subscribe, and comment.
That brings us from the Langmore estate to the birdhouse.